This is a tricky game to talk about, because it's a good game and I enjoyed it, but I'm not sure it deserves the attention. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a Metroidvania dropped by Ubisoft last year that failed to make all the money in the world and was therefore deemed a failure. Now, I don't know much about business, but when it comes to games, well, I'll judge for myself, thank you, whether or not it's a failure. So the game starts in ancient Persia. Like all Prince of Persia games, I have to imagine, I haven't played any of them. You are Sargon, an ancient warrior with a modern haircut, who, along with his crew of immortals, a varied group of badass warriors, start the game out by curb-stomping a whole invading army and its general too. Good job, lads, that's a job well done, roll the credits. But then someone in the game studio remembered that they still have a whole game that needs to happen, so the prince gets kidnapped out of the blue, and Sargon and the immortals have to follow him and his kidnappers to the sacred mountain. But something is amiss. The place is cursed, and evidently you're the first ones to discover this, but I mean, if the mountain is so important, you'd think someone would be keeping an eye on it? Anyway, yes, it's some kind of time curse. Time has been broken, and past, present, and future intersect in this place, making it a very cool place for an adventure. It sounds like a great setup for a roguelike, actually, but it is not that. It is a good old-fashioned standard Metroidvania, and it's quite good. Let's talk about the combat first, why not? Sargon is a lightning-fast, dual-wielding murder machine, and the combat is flashy, well-animated, and stylish. You can dodge, you can parry, you can murder someone with a parry if you parry the right kind of attack at the right time, and you can get super moves that you can charge up and then unleash later like in a fighting game, and it's all very flashy. You get these little cutscenes and everything. It looks really good, and you feel like a vicious warrior, which might make for an appealing power fantasy if that's how you want to play, and if you want to annihilate everything, but I myself like a little bit of challenge. And also I just came off playing 9 Souls last week, which was brutal, so I notched the difficulty up a little bit right from the start, and that felt right for me. Combat gets a solid A minus for me, and the only reason I would take some points off, and this is a really minor nitpick, but it's just not quite as responsive as games like Hollow Knight or what have you, and I have a theory about that. You see, this game is clearly meticulously well animated, and that means that someone somewhere, some underpaid developer in some studio somewhere had to meticulously work on that for a long time, and it would be a real shame if those animations were truncated or cancelled. So they really want to make sure you see them, and that's why I think the combat is not quite as fluid as Hollow Knight or other Metroidvanias, who have much simpler animations but are much more fluid as a result. Does that sound right to you? It's just my theory. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, please. As far as exploration, if you've played any Metroidvania, you know the drill. You'll roam, you'll backtrack, you'll hit dead ends, you'll probably get a double jump at some point. It's not bad, but it certainly doesn't reinvent the wheel. Because this is ancient Persia, they probably invented the wheel last week. Honestly, I don't know that much about ancient Persia, but what I do know now is, evidently, they loved making puzzle rooms, filled with platforming and deadly traps to test the cunning and wisdom of people, even though these could only possibly be done by an Olympic-level gymnast with time-bending magic powers. Another thing I've learned about ancient Persia is that they really love their special trees. These golden leafy things are your save points and have mystical properties, which you might think would mean that they're rare, but no, these suckers are everywhere. They grow throughout this mountain like weeds. You are always within the zip code of the next save point. Some games like to tease you with the tension of where the next save point is going to be and whether or not you might die to get there. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown does none of that. It even sends out these golden light beams to let you know when you're close, just to remove any possible tension you might feel. There's little things about this game that I like. One I like is that the immortal warriors follow you throughout the whole game and show up in random places. I half expected them to just disappear after the opening cutscene once you're in the place, but no. You run into them left and right and get little story bits and move the plot forward, and it's just kinda cool. Are these characters from the Prince of Persia universe? Like, should I know who they are? Is there a pre-existing lore I should be aware of? The time theme is also cool. They do some neat things with it in the abilities and in the story and the way it's presented, and I know time-bending stuff and multiverses and what have you is a little overdone, but it's kind of interesting here. I was pleased with how it went forward. I like that you can run into alternate timeline versions of yourself and you have to fight them, and it's gripping to see Sargon grapple with the moral and ethical implications of killing his alternate self for about 2 seconds before he does it anyway, because they drop upgrades and I need those. Sorry, sucker, you gotta go. There's stuff that I'm a little less enthusiastic about, like the hidden walls, which is cool, right? You find a little secret, that's nice, but these things could be anywhere, so you gotta go through the whole game poking every flat surface wondering if there's something hidden behind it, and there's not that many of them. There aren't that many things in general in this game. The Lost Crown is sprawling, it's epic, it's other words for big, but that also means it's kind of spread out, and you don't actually get meaningful upgrades that often. Minor nitpick, I know, but it does kind of dampen your enthusiasm after a while, especially when you do some decently tough challenge and all you get is gems for the umpteenth time. I don't think there's anything that I really disliked about the game, except maybe the sewer area. Is it mandatory? Is there like an enclave somewhere that just mandates that there's an area like this in every action game? Was there a meeting of the developers where they did some playtesting and decided, players are having entirely too much fun. Better make them run through a sludge area for an hour to break up the momentum. And while all of this may or may not appeal to you, I think we have to ask, why would you play this over the many, many other options for Metroidvanias that are available right now? And if I had to sum up what makes it special in a word, it would be polish. This game clearly had a AAA studio's budget behind it, and it shows. The animation qualities are amazing, the art style, the vistas, the backgrounds are beautifully detailed, and the whole thing is fully voice acted. Not just the main character, but all of the side characters, the NPCs, the bosses, something that is sorely lacking from a lot of indie games, understandably, because that kind of talent is expensive, and a big developer is really the only one who can afford that. It may sound superficial, but these things matter. And it's not just window dressing in this case either, because the game underneath is solid. It's not just frosting, there is a substantial, satisfying cake of a game underneath. But since I did mention voice acting and big budget stuff, I have to touch on the real controversial take here, which is that this is a game made by Ubisoft. Now, I usually try to give attention to indie games because I feel like they could really use the boost, and it feels a little gross to shout out a game made by a giant company that could perfectly well afford to market their own games. And so I feel a little conflicted, but the way I think about it is this. I would like to see more games like this get made, whether by big companies or by indies. I just think it would be nice if there were more cool things in the world. I know there are people that hate Ubisoft and wish the whole company would just vanish into a pit in the earth, but I, for myself, just my opinion, I would rather steer the ship in a better direction than see it sink. And I hope that maybe, just maybe, if a game like this sells a little better, more people might be inclined to make things like this, and hire people to make them, and do more voice acting and more animation work and make nice things. But if people feel differently, I understand. It's always going to be a bit contentious. But anyway, those caveats aside, I have to strongly recommend this one. It's great. It's beautiful, it's fun. I have to hardly recommend it across the board. But that's all I have to say, really. I'm gonna go play something else now. Take care.